guys, this is Lala Legacy, and welcome back to another episode of SeaBed. So, let's jump right back in. Did you do this wrapping? It looks like something that could be sold in stores. It's easy. I can teach you how to do it later. Yeah, do that! The sandwich had some potato salad, 2 thinly sliced pieces of tomato, and some lettuce decorating the whole thing like laces. Hungry after all the work I did today, I quickly took a bite. Tastes great! No need to rush, I have a whole lot more where that came from. Mayuko pulled out a pot and 2 teacups and from a basket and filled them with black tea. Would you have preferred green tea? No, I'm fine with black. Today's tea was not bitter at all and smelled like fruit. I placed the cup down and grabbed another sandwich from the box. This one had scrambled eggs, pieces of thinly sliced ham, and lettuce. The fresh lettuce perfectly complemented the soft texture of the ham and the eggs. I ended up gobbling the whole thing down right away. It feels nice to see someone enjoy the food you made. Well, it's super delicious! I'm sure you'd be popular if you opened a shop. That's a good idea. Mayuko made a happy smile. Yeah, I could be the owner. Oh, are you familiar with management? Sure I am, providing I get to eat food like this every day. In that case, I'll think about it. The sea breeze ruffled my hair a bit. The waves of the blue sea gave way for the waves of green as the trees across the entire mountain swayed in sync with the wind. Have you gotten used to the sanatorium, Takako? Yeah, more or less. It's full of beautiful sights. The meals are delicious, and best of all, there's a good-looking nurse with big boobs. Mayuko looked down at her breasts. That's sexual harassment. I'm sorry. Don't sue me. Well, okay, I'll forgive you this one time. Thanks! Is something the matter? I gazed off into the distance when Mayuko interrupted me. Were you reminiscing about something? Not at all. I made a light smile. But I felt like the scenery was about to make me remember something. Something fun? Mayuko smiled as well. I reached out to the sandwich box to realize there was only one left. I paused and glanced at Mayuko. She nodded with a smile. Another sudden gust of cool wind blew past us. Oh, it's cold! Oh wait, whoops. Whatever. We'll be having snowfall before long. It will get colder and colder as it rains, so we won't be able to have picnics on the roof anymore. Well, that's too bad. The conditions are rigid in the mountains. It might be boring for you, but it's best not to go outside during winter if you don't have any pressing matters. Even after sunset, the gray clouds drifted along the sky and all the way to the sea. The woodland stretching below the heavy clouds lost their once vivid colors, making the scenery resemble an old monochrome photograph. This song is super cute. As I opened Sanae's door with a yawn, she looked up at me from her bed. Hello. Sanae closed the book she'd been holding and placed it on the bedside table. On the nearby table rested an unfinished lunch with the wrapping still on it. Are you not feeling well? Sanae lightly shook her head. I was too absorbed in my book to care about anything else. Are you alright? I heard you had an attack. I'm okay. It wasn't that bad this time. I sat down in the cane chair that had been left next to the bed. I could see some moisture accumulating on the wrap around the tray. On the other hand, the wooden dessert bowl next to it was empty. You seem to have eaten the coffee jelly, though. Don't tell me it's what you came here for. I turned to her and waved my hand. No, I just wanted to borrow a paper knife. And I was also curious about how you were doing. Give me a second. Sanae turned her body without breaking her sitting position and reached out to open the drawer of her side table. Same as always. Sanae handed me a paper knife she fished out from the drawer. I walked over to her and took the knife. That's good to hear. Is it? Yeah. I suppose you're right. Sanae also handed me a shawl that was lying on the bed. Thanks! I hung the shawl on the back seat of the chair and picked up the paper knife along with the other thing I brought. What is this parcel-looking thing? I got it from Mayuko this morning. Apparently it was sent to me. I've no idea what's inside until I open it up and see for myself. I undid the straps and checked the edges of the parcel. Finding the one that felt the softest, I pierced it with my newly gained knife. I pushed the knife all the way to the other side, changing its angle. The craft paper had already fallen apart by the time I finished. There was a white cardboard box inside. As I opened its lid and turned the thing upside down, a notebook fell out. Looks like a notebook, said Sanae. I realized it was a notebook because it looked just like the one I was using for my diary here. I inspected both its top and bottom. The color had already begun to fade, which made it look older than any of my own notebooks. What's written in it? There was a date on the top of the first page with a bunch of text below it. It had the same design as our diaries. Looks like a diary to me. Wonder whom it belonged to. I checked both the first and the last pages, but I couldn't find a name. After I gave up and returned to the first page to read it, Sanae interrupted me. We don't know whose diary it is. There might be some mistake, so maybe it'd be better to ask Mayuko about it first. I guess you have a point. I placed the notebook on the table. My arms felt a bit cold, so I covered them with Sanae's shawl. It felt like the temperature of Sanae's room had dropped compared to when I came in. I glanced at the window. It was covered in dew. I collected it all on my finger to form a droplet, which then fell down as soon as I moved my finger away. What are you doing? When I turned around, I saw Sanae laughing at me. Nothing really. I noticed some dew on the window, so I thought it might have grown pretty cold outside. I pulled my chair to a spot with more moisture, only to realize that there was already something on the window glass. Parting the curtains, I revealed a drawing on the window's dew-covered surface. Is this some animal? I messed that one up. Sanae's face was ridden with guilt. I looked back at the glass again. Her drawing was quickly disappearing. In any case, my best guess was that it depicted some four-legged animal. Is this a cat? I was trying to draw a bear. I see. You might want to do this then. I placed a finger against the mouth of the drawing and slid it in the shape of a fish. Is that a fish? A salmon! You often see bears holding them in their jaws on pictures. Cats eat fish too. I'm not talking about sorry here, okay? Anyway, if it doesn't look salmon-y enough, oh look, I can make its jaw a little longer. I breathed against the glass, making both the bear and the fish disappear. I'm sorry, I only wanted to erase the fish, but... Well, it's no big deal at any rate. The white on the window melted away like an iceberg in warm water. By the time it was gone, it left behind a pattern reminiscent of a face. Right. I had this really scary dream the other day, but I can't remember it. That's how most dreams are. I remembered it just fine when I woke up. I thought I could use it to scare everyone, so I was planning not to forget it, but maybe when you remember, you'll realize it wasn't all that scary at all. Mayuko said the same thing. Maybe I should prepare myself a pen and paper next time I go to sleep. Sanae snickered to herself. Takako, trying to jot these things down is all well and good, but are you writing your diary after a fit, just like Miss Mayuko told you? I am. Just recently I spent an entire day reading through all the notebooks I'd already filled. Jeez. Don't you want to write something else down? You might forget it all after your next attack. I don't really have that much stuff to write about. Mayuko didn't comment on the state of my diaries, but I had a feeling that continuing to sum up entire days in one sentence might piss her off. Oh, that reminds me! I know this one scary story about the sanatorium! What kind of story? Whoops, this is Sanae talking about the story. Do you lock your room, Takako? No, I just can't be bothered. What about you? Well, you have a point. While it does feel somewhat pointless to lock our doors, the locks themselves were installed for a reason. Can you guess what that reason was? Not really. There were more people here in the past, so not everyone knew each other? I suppose that could be one explanation. However, what I've heard was the opposite. The locks were there to prevent patients from leaving their rooms. So they wouldn't escape? You wouldn't suspect it now, but in the past, there were apparently cases of patients going missing. The nurses began locking them in their rooms so they wouldn't try to escape and hide during the night. Why would they try to escape? Were the chores too hard for them or something? Apparently, it was more related to their memories. Did you remember anything when you read your diary, Takako? There were a few parts I couldn't remember all that well, but I bet I feel that's still within healthy boundaries. They didn't use diaries in the past. They didn't even know the symptoms led to memory loss, and were instead trying to treat them. Anyway, they didn't occupy themselves with their memories too much, and some patients ended up forgetting almost everything about themselves. You mean they became like amnesiacs? Sanae slightly tilted her head. As in forgetting all of your memories since birth? That's what you're thinking about, right? Oh, whoopsie. That was Sanae talking. I nodded. Our symptoms are somewhat different, though. First, you have to realize that your various memories of phenomena happening around you, as well as your feelings in response to said phenomena, are different things. In our case, we most likely lose the feeling part of our memories. We might vaguely remember what happened, but we don't remember how we felt about it. Anyway, that's the kind of memory loss we're dealing with. I more or less understood the difference from her explanation. I gave her another few nods. But what of it? But what of it? If you can remember facts of your past, you won't forget how to read and write, or any other skills you need to survive in the world. Anyway, the ultimate endpoint of our condition is that we lose our individuality, our personalities, if you will. We lose interest in what we used to like and forget what we hated. That's the extent of what I was told about it. To give an example, imagine reading a book and understanding what's going on, but not feeling anything about it, or having a meal and understanding its taste, but being unable to decide whether or not it's delicious. That would suck! I think the symptoms had a name, but I've already forgotten. I think it was memory loss something. I briefly pondered what she had just told me and realized that her story about locks hadn't been finished yet. I got the part about our condition, but what does it have to do with locks? Ah, that's right. Anyway, one of the early patients who displayed this memory loss something went missing. Apparently they couldn't find them no matter where they looked. Everyone from the nurses down to the town militia searched all over the mountain, but found nothing. At the time, they even thought that the person may have been spirited away. On top of it, Sanae went on in an emphasized tone. If it ended there, it probably wouldn't have become as big of a thing. But sometime later, another patient disappeared the exact same way. Did that patient have the symptoms too? Yes. Anyway, we have finally reached the part about the locks. After the second case, the sanatorium added locks to the rooms of every patient to prevent any similar cases from cropping up. At the time, you couldn't unlock the rooms from the inside, and the sanatorium staff had complete control over who would leave their rooms and when. And did that help? Sanae shook her head. From what I've heard, people continue to go missing even after that. Patients that were confirmed to be in their rooms before bedtime disappeared by morning. Didn't they just climb out through the window or something? The windows were locked too, and there were no signs of the locks being broken either. They all vanished like a wisp of smoke. Well, it's not like people could actually do that, though. Everyone felt the same way, of course, but no matter how much they searched, they couldn't find a single trace of the missing patients. The only thing they understood was that the patients who had forgotten all about themselves and lost their personalities would eventually disappear. I tried to more or less summarize Sanae's story in my mind. Patients didn't use diaries in the past. As the symptoms of memory loss grew worse, they forgot who they were. Finally, they disappeared without a trace. The story was peculiar, but then again, so was the sanatorium. I'd never heard of this kind of sickness before. Besides, patients here had jobs and duties, despite this being a sanatorium supposedly meant for relaxation. Well, the part about work was possibly because Mayuko was the only nurse on the grounds and couldn't manage everything by herself, but still, it was kind of weird that there were no doctors here, for example. I didn't think too much about it before, but it was peculiar for sure. I remembered that odd feeling I had when I was cleaning the storage room. Maybe this place still hid some unknown secrets. Anyway, it's all just a rumor though. It was pretty interesting. Still, the part about people just disappearing didn't make much sense. Well, that's just how most rumors are. But then again, most rumors also have a bit of truth mixed into them, no? If you're curious, you could always try it for yourself. I mean, you were complaining that writing your diary was a pain in the neck. Is that what it all comes down to? Sanae snickered to herself. Ooh, trying to get rid of us, huh? No, I'm kidding. I said my goodbyes to Sanae and left the room. Sanae, still waving at me, disappeared behind the door. Wearing only my short sleeves, I felt the corridor to be somewhat chilly. The nighttime cold of the mountains seeped in through the transparent windows. I shoved my hands into my pockets and continued down the corridor. A strong gust of wind rattled the windows, startling me. Glancing at the window, I saw only the reflections of myself in the door behind me. I thought back to Sanae's story and wondered if I should check the doors of all the rooms on my way back, just for the heck of it. All the doors had the same design, and their knobs were identical. There was a small gap between the door and the floor. A faint light in the corridor was not enough to fully illuminate it. It felt as if the darkness was slithering out of the rooms through it. The windows rattled behind me again. Brought back to reality by the sound, I gave up on looking at the doors. I reached the spiral staircase and ascended to my floor. Temperatures began to rapidly fall, starting with that night. Around midnight, the wind rattled my window so bad I half expected it to break open. It made me jump out of bed, reminding me of what Mayuko and Sanae said about the window about the wind around this time of the year. I wondered what would become of the leaves on the tree I saw through Sanae's window. There was no way they could withstand wind this strong. But that is all the time that I have for this episode, guys. So if you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up down below. And if you haven't already subscribed, by subscribing, you're becoming part of a legacy. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!